And we're back. Super excited to be sitting in the studio today with the team behind Boveda, or at least two of the people behind Boveda, Scott and Mike. Welcome, guys.
Thanks for having us. Yeah. We're excited to be here.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks so much for coming in. We're super excited to have you in the studio today. I mean, everyone at this point knows who Boveda is, but I think people are still surprised to learn that they're a Minnesota-based brand. It's one of those that you've probably seen with instruments or with cigars, or let's be honest, on this podcast, probably cannabis products. But tell us a little bit about each of yourselves and what brings you to Boveda.
Yeah, my name is Scott. I've been with Boveda for almost 9 years now. Started just kind of working in customer service. And at that point, we were just kind of getting into cannabis and really being open and pursuing that market. And so quickly we got really busy. And so I transitioned into kind of a sales role, and have been doing that for the last 7.5 years, working with, large brands all across North America. And that's what I'm doing, still today. So having a lot of fun, just meeting growers, meeting big brands, and, helping them protect their cannabis.
Very cool.
And he's really good at it. He's humble though. My name is Mike Kanowitz, and I think I'm going on 6 years with Boveda. And, life is funny, right? Things happen for a reason. And I was working in the automotive industry here in Minnesota and for about 16 years, and just the work-life balance wasn't there. And I knew I needed to make a move. And fortunately for me, one of our teammates, Kate Holste, shout out Kate. I grew up playing hockey with her brother, and I'd heard so much about Boveda that they were growing. And honestly, I looked at it as kind of like a soft landing, like a temporary move until I found what I really wanted to do. And very, very quickly, I realized what Boveda had going on as far as the strength of the team, how well the product worked. And, 6+ years later, I'm still around. So, and hopefully they'll keep me around for another 6 years.
Let's hope.
Yeah, right?
Very, very cool. So bring us forward a little bit. Cannabis is one of those things that I think at Boveda, in terms of my mind, I think of it as like the primary pillar of Boveda. But I think when you look at the brand itself, it's actually just sort of one of those components of the entire brand. What has it been like sort of being inside of a company that is partially cannabis, but also partially a lot of other things as well?
Yeah, no, it's been kind of unique. Really, when Boveda started 26 years ago, it was solving a problem in the tobacco premium cigar market. Most people know you store your cigars in a wooden humidor. And back in the day, in order to keep those cigars properly humidified, you would fill a shot glass, you would wet a sponge, use a glycerin gel-based solution that really only gives off moisture. So you see these large spikes where it just shoots up, and then as that product dries out or the solution there dries out, it drops down. And so you just have this kind of roller coaster effect, and that can be really damaging to cigars or any product that's moisture sensitive. And so that's really where our technology came into play was, hey, we can solve a problem here and keep a consistent humidity level across extended period of time in those humidors. And then fast forward really 10, 12 years, cannabis kind of found us. We had a few people out in California that were moving a lot of weight, and they had reached out and said, hey, we've actually found your product, helps maintain the weight of our cannabis. So as we're, growing and producing it here in California and ship it over to New York, it's a long supply chain. New York is known to be really dry in the winter months. And so they're like, hey, this product helps us maintain that weight so we don't lose money over time. And so a few years went on that we were doing that. We weren't against it, but we didn't really jump in with 2 feet because it's new. Cannabis was kind of coming into the spotlight. There was a lot of stigma around it being in a state in Minnesota where, it's not legalized. We kind of kept our distance for a little bit, but then we realized, hey, we can really help cannabis producers put out a higher quality product, save them money, just kind of maximize their efforts and maximize the enjoyment of a consumer. And so we spent about 3 years researching cannabis And that's where we landed on the 62%. That was the first RH level that we launched into cannabis. And once we did that, it was just full steam ahead. We're a part of this industry. We want to better the industry. And we're still doing the same thing today. So
very cool. Yeah, I remember some of those early packs that were like, it's good for your herbal product. And it wasn't specifically for cannabis, but it was, 62%. And hey, that happens to be pretty good for cannabis as well. And it's been cool to see that transition in the market sort of move forward. Do each of you, not to put you on the spot, but we're in a legal state now. Do each of you sort of have a background with cannabis prior to doing that with Boveda, or was Boveda sort of your introduction to cannabis as well?
No, like a lot of your listeners, I'm guessing I started with cannabis in high school, essentially. With the hockey team or the soccer team, and that's where I first discovered it. And through college and everything, I'm a consumer, and to be a part of the industry is really special. And I'm just thankful that Minnesota finally allowed us to get into the cannabis space as far as individually homegrown, and then obviously next year with the recreational coming through. But I still think there's a ways to go. I think there's still a lot of green closets out there that people in Minnesota are hiding in. And I have the same feeling. I go to a legal market like California or Colorado, and you spark a joint up on the street. It's still kind of like, you're looking around to make sure, like, is this okay? But hopefully with time, we can all get past that.
Definitely makes sense.
Yeah, I also dabbled in high school. Never got super into it. I, unfortunately, after college, struggled with an opiate addiction. And so after I got through that and then started working at Boveda, I was a little bit hesitant to kind of get back into that with my addictive personality. And really going to events and trade shows, we meet a lot of cool people that have a lot of cool stories. And there was a lot of people finding, relief from their addiction through using cannabis. And that really kind of got me excited. And now I'm a full on, I love cannabis. It helps me sleep at night. My mind races a lot. I'm just kind of a high-strung person, so it mellows me out and allows me to just kind of chill and take a step back. And so, I think Mike can attest to this, and I'm sure you guys can too, just the amount of stories that we get to hear about how cannabis has helped people with mental illness and other things too. It's super powerful. So
yeah, definitely can agree with that one.
Absolutely.
It's nice to see the people behind Boveda. A lot of our listeners know the brand by the logo. Maybe they've researched it. Maybe they know it's out of Minnetonka. A lot probably don't know it was started in 1997 or that it got started in cannabis in 2012. And it's like, Boveda is one of the oldest legal ancillary cannabis industry businesses in Minnesota. And it's great to see a face with a name and understand, and not that it's a requirement to use cannabis, but to be open-minded about it. And that probably helps you better understand your customer base and be a better employee at the end of the day.
Yeah, exactly. I think cannabis, the cannabis industry can be sensitive to outside individuals or companies coming in and jumping on the bandwagon or the coattails and trying to make a quick buck. And that's not what we're about. We've been around for a while, and cannabis came to us, and we really, after a little bit of time, dove in with 2 feet and really have just found the impact that Boveda can make is super powerful. And we're all very passionate about making a difference and just furthering the plant, getting rid of the stigma. And I think just anyone in Minnesota that has a Minnesota company that's, serving the cannabis space has a responsibility and an opportunity to kind of crush that stigma. And it's going to be, time and it's going to be hard here in Minnesota. I've managed our, the Canadian book of business for us, and they've gotten through that similar cycle where they legalized. And it has, even up to this point, there's still a stigma. It's gotten a lot better, but again, I think all of us can play a role in removing that stigma. So
very, very cool. So speaking of stigma, I think my first interaction with a Boveda product was when I was in high school. Bought some cannabis from a friend of mine friend of the show, and it came with one of these little brown like paper bag type things in it. Didn't really understand what it was. He said, "Oh, keep it with your flower. It will keep it fresh forever." And I think I went so long thinking that it was just those tiny little packs, and then all of a sudden saw like the slightly larger like 1 ounce packs. It's like, oh, that's really cool. And just for one of the first times last year, saw like the 1 pound packs. And can you take our listeners through a little bit of what some of the products that Boveda has are? I think we might think of it as just that little tiny brown slip, but there's so much more to what Boveda has.
Absolutely. And shout out to your plug. He clearly has the best flower in town if he's storing with Boveda.
Yeah, he knew what he was doing.
Yeah, that's awesome. So we have a solution, everything for a flower stored at home, all the way to your larger cultivations that are growing tens of thousands pounds a year. So our smallest pack currently, that's it's mostly an OEM product right now, is our size 1. So the size 1, it's a little bit bigger than like a postage stamp, and it'll protect up to 3.5 grams of flour, so up to 1/8, and it's very popular with pre-rolls as well. And then from there, we jump to a size 4. The size 4, it's about 2 inches by 2 inches, will protect up to a 1/2 ounce. And you've noticed I've said up to twice now. So that's one of the amazing things about Boveda is it will never over humidify. So you could use our largest pack, which is a size 320, which will protect up to 5 pounds. You could use that with 1 gram of flour and never have to worry about too much moisture being released. All it is extra horsepower. That pack's not going to have to work as hard, and it's going to last you a longer period of time. I like to say it's like setting a thermostat inside your jar. It's like it wants to regulate the number on the pack. And for cannabis, as Scott mentioned, we have our 62%, which was our original, and then we have a 58%. So size 4, 1/2 ounce, size 8, up to 1 ounce. And then like the 1 pound pack that you mentioned is our size 67. I know it's a lot of numbers. It's very confusing, but once you use it, you'll understand. And then again, the size 320 is currently our largest pack that we make.
Very cool.
So how many individual sizes on the cannabis side?
1, 4,
5.
8, 5. We're actually, I think I can talk about this. We're launching a size 2.
Yep.
So it's coming, it kind of fills a gap, I guess, more specifically on the OEM kind of packaging side. As Mike mentioned, we had the 1 and the 4, and there was a gap in between there. And so, we're launching at the end of this month. We'll have a size 2 for brands and packagers out there.
Very cool.
So it's not just the cannabis shops like Legacy Glassworks that you're selling into. You're also working to integrate within cannabis grower brands so that they leave the products leave the farm or the greenhouse or the cultivation facility with Boveda inside the packaging. All right.
Yeah, exactly. Mm-hmm. And the process behind that is you grow, you chop down your plant, you essentially just killed it when you did that. And it's now going to begin to decay, die, just go bad over time. And a big part of that is the moisture leaving the bud. Or in a market like Florida, too much moisture causes mold and other bad things. So really, once you've done your normal dry process, that's when you should introduce Boveda, and it goes into that bulk storage and into the back end. It's going to maintain that quality and the weight while it's sitting there until it goes into your final packaging stage. And then from there, that's when you would put in our small one. In a really easy way that we like to explain it, it's a cheap insurance policy. So you've spent all this time, money, blood, sweat, and tears growing and producing a high quality product. And then you add Boveda, and that just maintains that quality until your consumer or customer gets to consume it. And you want them to have that good experience. Cannabis is sold on weight. Water, moisture is weight. Mm-hmm. Weight is money. And so if product dries out, it loses moisture, which it's losing weight. So you're actually getting less for that, that product.
It's a great insurance policy. I like that.
Yeah, I love how Boveda is sort of growing along with the industry, where when it was much more on, I think, the consumer-focused side, that more traditional, you throw the pack in the bag kind of thing, it's cool to hear now that you could buy, a pack of pre-rolls that would come with one of those packs just in it, keeping those pre-rolls fresh until you're ready to use them.
Exactly. Yep.
So before we move on, I want you to, as much as you can, touch on Boveda's acquisition of C-Vault. You've got a jar here. Can you take us through the integration that you see with this product and this product?
Yeah, I can talk about some of the kind of bare bones of it, and then I'll let Mike touch on just what Sea Vault is and why it's so awesome. But yeah, Sea Vault has been we've had a working relationship with them for quite a few years. And they actually developed the lid with a holder to hold the Boveda pack up there. And so,
Yeah, go ahead and show it.
yeah, I can pop this open here.
For our listening audience, Sea Vault is this silver tight jar that you may have seen cannabis stored in the past.
Yeah. So they created this little holder on the lid here. The Boveda pack just slides right in there, so it's out of the way, stays up there. Super airtight container, high quality. And yeah, just over the years, we've worked really closely with them. We've done trade show events together, different collabs, things like that. And they were at a point in their business where they were ready to make a move. And so it made sense where we like to call it the perfect marriage, perfect storage container, airtight, doesn't, allow light in, it's rigid, durable. And then you add the Boveda in there, which is kind of the engine inside that works its magic. It's a perfect marriage.
Yeah, we like to say that the Sea Vault's the car and the Boveda's the gas.
I love that a lot. Yeah, I remember buying one of those a few years ago and popping it open and being like, oh, that's so cool. Like, what a seamless integration to just have that spot for it all ready to go.
Yeah, and the cool thing, too, just like the Boveda product, there's consumer applications. So this is a smaller one. There's even smaller ones in this. We didn't bring it because it's actually massive. But there's a big one. What's it, 50 liters?
Yep, correct.
Cool. How much pounds?
5 to 6 pounds.
Yeah.
All
so
right.
It's massive. So yeah.
And then that pairs with the 320 bag.
Correct. Yep.
Okay. I don't know how far I can go into this because I know it's a recently new acquisition, but I'm familiar with Sea Vault. I'm less familiar with E-Vault, and we have a class coming up in May that's about concentrates. Can you talk about a little bit of Sea Vault's sister, E-Vault?
Yeah, absolutely. So it's the newest product from Sea Vault. So essentially the E-Vault, it's a ultimate storage, transportation. People are actually selling the extract in the E-Vault as well, but it's basically a perfect environment to safely store that extraction. And what's interesting is, well, again, back to the insurance policy, people are using the E-Vaults because for forever they've been shipping those around or delivering them in glass. And all it takes is for one fumble and you got $5,000 of extract that just broke and is all over the floor. So by utilizing the E-Vault, it's protected, it's preserved, it's going to stay nice and fresh in there as well. Obviously, no Boveda pack comes with the E-Vault because it's not necessary on the extraction side, but it's a great, safe environment for storage.
And that works for like rosin, bubble hash, works for all the
Correct.
different types.
Yep. It uses a higher grade of stainless steel that works better with that product. So
Very cool. So I think there's a lot of people that have recently become growers over the last couple of months that it's been legalized. Let's say someone's a new home grower at home. They're getting to the end of their grow. They're thinking, all right, I'm ready to harvest. Can you walk through some of the products that Boveda has that can really help someone on that home grow side get to the end, and then a little guidance on maybe how they would go about using them?
Yeah. Obviously, the Sea Vaults, like we just touched on, it's a great storage environment. As Scotty mentioned, no sunlight's going to get in there and degrade your cannabis flower. But we also have, I'd say for most home growers, our size 8 and our size 67 would probably be the most likely sizes that they'd be using. If they're pulling down 3 or 4 ounces, I'd say that size 67 would be perfect because it's going to last them for months. And obviously, we're all still learning. The home growers are still learning, but you go through your normal drying process. You get that bud close to where you think it's ideal, or maybe just past the point of where you think it's ideal, and then introduce Boveda to it. And Boveda is going to fine tune, add or remove moisture as necessary to make sure that bud stays fresh and that it's ready to go when it's time to share with your buddies or to roll one up.
For sure.
I love that. So it would be more sort of like that curing process where you'd be focusing on that.
Correct. Yes, sir.
Cool.
yeah, it's really straightforward. You kind of just got to use it but it's as simple as just throwing it in there. The Boveda pack, when it's spent and done because it becomes hard like a cracker almost. They're really supple and kind of jelly almost when they're full of life, and when they're not, they're thin and hard like a little cracker.
Very cool.
Throw it out, throw a new one in.
Sweet. Yeah, you don't really have to send instructions along with that product. Right. Yeah.
And in case people were wondering, it's all natural food grade ingredients inside the Boveda and the paper and the ink that's used on the outside as well, all FDA approved and stuff. So it's natural and safe to use.
Yeah. So I found out about the brown sugar trick late last year. What is like the most surprising way that you used a Boveda pack to improve whatever it might be? You must have some stories.
Yeah, when I was working in customer service, I'd get a lot of calls. Hey, does Boveda work for X, Y, and Z? And it's like, well, yeah, if it's in a airtight container, then yeah, it's going to add or remove moisture. So really, any moisture sensitive product, Boveda can be used for. One of them was alligator eggs.
All right.
Yep. So that one was pretty wild. You've had some too.
Yeah. Mosquito larvae. There was a couple labs that were doing testing on mosquitoes, and they needed to keep the larvae at a certain relative humidity percentage. So they use a Boveda pack to help with that. What's really starting to come on too are like trading cards, whether it's like Magic the Gathering or like old baseball cards and stuff. If as they get dried out, they'll start to curl up a little bit or get wrinkly. So people are using Boveda packs to make sure that their very valuable cards stay valuable, I guess you could say, in a good condition.
Yeah, those Charizards are got to be kept at the right humidity.
Right.
Rolls Royce, they were putting, I don't know if they're still doing it, but one of their cars had a wooden humidor inside of it.
Backseat,
Yep. And so the Boveda was a part of that project. We've done some work with NASA, some aerospace companies that manufacture plane wings or the kind of storage of plane wings after they've been produced and shipped, and electronic parts, a lot of food products. The brown sugar one is super popular. We were just talking to Kale out there about that. But yeah, if you have brown sugar at home, you've experienced when it becomes hard like a brick. Well, if you throw one of our 69% Bovedas in there, even the 62 will work. I think we recommend the 69, but yeah, that will keep it soft and you can spoon it out easily for months.
Yeah, the 62 it breaks it up so you can work it, but like I only have the cannabis like RH levels. I need to actually get some of the non-cannabis stuff.
We'll hook you up.
Yeah.
We'll hook you up.
We'll take care of you.
Because I heard something about coffee too. I wanted to ask you guys, how does that work with, or what's the best percentage to work with the coffee beans?
Ooh.
I think that's 69 as well.
Yeah, I think that might be 69 as well.
Nice.
Herbs and spices, loose leaf tea. If you have loose leaf tea at home, loose leaf tobacco. Yeah, there's a lot of, and if you're ever wondering, you can go on our website. We have a lot of that stuff listed, or you can call in and we'll help you.
I love sort of the full circle aspect of, I remember the teenager going to the grocery store and being like, hey, do you guys happen to sell grinders here? And I'm being like, no, of course not. And now here I am going to the dispensary being like, do you guys sell brown sugar humidifiers here? And they do. That's gratefully, yeah.
That's so funny, right?
It's a unique crossover ancillary issue, like going back to the stigma. Like my first introduction to Boveda was through Rochelle Gordon.
She's
Love
awesome.
Rochelle.
Yeah, shout out to Rochelle.
Friend of the show.
And she's like, yeah, I work for this company. It's in Minnetonka. They've been in the cannabis industry. I'm like, what? Like, where? Like, next to, North Star Financial or whatever, like right off the highway and near Tanner's. Never mind.
Yeah. We could tell that story. I was driving on my lunch break the other day, coming back from Chipotle, driving through the loop-de-loops and all those many back circles. And
It's a nightmare.
it is. And was driving, and I was like, all right, well, there's a bank and there's Boveda. I was like, I know them. I didn't know they were literally like less than a mile from where I spend most of my time during the day. So it's tucked back there a little bit.
We'll swing by.
Yeah. Oh, we'll have to come hang out over lunch.
Come on over for sure. We'll hook you up with product, hang out, and
Sweet.
have a good time.
All right. Sounds like a good time.
Yeah, I mean, you guys are doing a lot for us these next couple of months. We've got the podcast. We've got the March 18th class where there's going to be gift bags from Boveda, similar to the treats you brought today. April 6th, we're putting on a conference and expo. Boveda is going to be sponsoring a panel.
Yep.
They're going to have a table, handing out, lots of free samples and all that good stuff. Then we come back April 15th with Raiden Labs and Brian Rice, a follow-up to the drying and curing class. We definitely want to get you guys back out and make sure your team shows up because you guys are doing a lot for the industry and we appreciate what you're doing for us. And we're going to cap it all off on May 5th with a bubble hash bonanza, which you've got to check it out.
Yeah, I'll have to be there. No, we appreciate it too. And again, we're here to work together with people. And I think there's a lot of people that say the cannabis industry is all about working together, but there still is a lot of I don't know, room for improvement for everyone to come together and further the industry, get rid of stigma, and just really make this thing work. I think we all want to see that. We've seen a lot of states and whole countries kind of do it wrong and fall on their face. And I think Minnesota is really set up to succeed and do something really cool. Yep. So
very cool.
And we know we're not the stars of the show. Yeah. It's the cultivators out there putting their blood, sweat, and tears into the beautiful flower, and then the consumer as well. We want the consumer to have enjoyable, safe cannabis at home. And, not everybody smokes an eighth every couple of weeks. That might have an eighth and have it for 2 months. Well, now they can keep it fresh and protect it with Boveda and know that they go into roll one in 2 months, that it's not going to turn into sawdust as soon as they go to grind it up.
We've all had that.
Yes.
And then your throat's on fire for a week.
Oh, it's such a bummer. Well, so I have some more questions for you about your outlook on the future of Minnesota's cannabis industry. But first, we're going to take a very short break. Oh, it's getting cutthroat now.
Hey guys, what are you up to?
Oh, we're just practicing for the Canna Connect 4 tournament, getting ready.
The Canna Connect 4 tournament? What are you talking about?
Yeah, it's the expo. All the brands are going to get together. They're going to compete in Connect 4. We want to show that we're the best in the industry, so we're practicing. And Marcus is getting really good.
Like Northern Lights, like you guys think Canna Connect 4 is like a Connect 4 tournament? Oh! Guys, Canna Connect 4 is a conference and expo. It's not a Connect 4 tournament. We're bringing together like 20 to 25 brands to give out like samples and education and knowledge about the Minnesota cannabis industry. It has nothing to do with Connect 4.
But we just haven't heard anything about it.
That's my fault, and I apologize. But we're getting the word out about Canna Connect 4 starting today, and tickets are on sale. In fact, I'm giving away 150 free tickets. Like, you guys got to get your tickets quick.
Oh,
Yeah.
guess we should stop practicing and go get our tickets.
Let's get the hell out of here and grab our tickets.
All right, let's go.
April 5th through the 7th, Modest Brewing and the Wilderness. Get your tickets online, cannaconnectmn.com.
All right, and we're back. So you guys have both been here in Minnesota for a while, helping to service other legal cannabis industries in other states. Legalization is now, sort of very slowly coming here to Minnesota. I was curious on your guys' thoughts. You've been here in Minnesota watching other states come online. What do you think the next few months are going to be like? And more importantly, what has it been like seeing legalization actually finally come to Minnesota?
Ooh. It's a big question. No, I'm really excited. I think our whole team is super excited. Just one from, I've been in Canada. Well, I'm living here, but traveling to Canada. It's a lot of travel. And I'm just really excited to have opportunities here at home, like what we're doing right now, to just engage with the community.
You guys go everywhere, trade show wise. You guys have been not just North America. You've been to Europe. You've probably numerous countries.
Yeah, at one point we were doing over 70 events a year as a team of our B2B team was not that big, 10 people. So a lot of events. We've toned back a little bit, but kind of with things coming around and opening back up, we're going to be out there. We're doing a lot of local events and supporting this market. But I think Minnesota's really set up for success. I'm optimistic for just how they have kind of structured the licenses. Really allowing for local Minnesota mom and pop to set up shop and succeed. I like, the limits on how much you can have, edibles, all of that. I think, in Canada, you can only buy, what is it? Like 10 milligrams at once or something. It's a really
low amount.
Low amount that, the average consumer that consumes on a weekly, regular basis, that's not even enough to provide really much of anything. So from that standpoint, I'm really excited. I think I I'm biased because I've grown up in Minnesota, but I love the Minnesota culture around Minnesota businesses and just, that small kind of local community feel. And I think Minnesota is set up to succeed and allow those smaller mom and pop shops to make something really cool. So.
And I think that's what I'm most excited about too, because the way it looks like the craft cultivator is going to be able to succeed in Minnesota. We've seen a lot of states that the craft cultivator, they wanted to succeed, but it was preventative due to the taxes, the license cost or whatever, or they tried it out and they just couldn't compete with or get shelf space at the local dispensary because, the biggest brand paid for it and had it. So then they had to either stop growing or they had to go back to the legacy market. From what I'm seeing in the meetings that we've attended, it looks like the craft cultivator is going to actually be able to succeed here. So we're going to be able to go to different areas of the state and say, I want to, see what whoever is growing and what it's like up here. Now I think what I'm really interested to see, I'm hopeful that these cities, these communities come on board and allow it, because I think at the end of the day it's going to be up to some of these cities to say yay or nay as far as whether or not they're allowing dispensaries and then those grow licenses to take effect.
Yeah, I mean they can't outright prohibit a store from opening, but they could make it more difficult.
Right.
We're going to get a Boveda grow in every county of Minnesota. We're going to make sure that it happens. There's going to be someone using Boveda products at their grow. I'm certain of it.
Oh yeah. Yep. That's the goal. And who knows? Maybe we'll open up our own dispensary someday.
There we go. Yeah. A Boveda dispensary.
I don't know. We'll see. I've been pushing for that.
You guys are going to help us with the Sesh Lounge. Those Adirondack chairs are going to be outside at Canna Connect 4, which we saw them originally at the Legacy Cup, and we're working with Legacy, so it makes sense to bring it all together.
Aren't those sweet?
Yeah, those are really cool. I mean, it's a great
Marijuana deck, I believe it is, if you want to go look it up out there.
Yeah, they're awesome. They're super awesome.
Very, very cool. Well, guys, thank you so much for coming in today. Before we wrap up, I heard a rumor that there might be something called the Boveda Challenge going on right now. Do either of you guys want to touch a little bit on what that is and tell our listeners about how they can perhaps participate in the challenge?
Yeah, so essentially it just allows you at home to kind of experience the difference of cannabis that has been stored with Boveda and without, and have that kind of what we call that aha moment. We've over the years at a lot of events have had people that just didn't buy into what we were selling and telling them. And it's like, hey, that's totally fine. Don't take our word for it. Here's some samples, go home and try it on your own. And I promise you, pretty much every single time that person comes back and says, you were right and I was wrong. I had an instance in Canada, and a guy for some reason just did not like what our product and us, and he was pretty aggressive about, this doesn't work, you guys are lying. And again, just, hey, that's fine. You can have your opinion. Just take this home and try it. He came back the next day and he's like, I put this in a jar of old dry weed, and overnight I noticed a difference. I'm a believer. I was wrong. I apologize for being aggressive. And so, yeah, essentially it's just a little kit that has the tools that you need to take some of your cannabis, store it, unprotected without Boveda, and then with Boveda. There's a nice little kind of sheet that walks you through what to do, and then you just let it sit for 14 days roughly, then come back to it, touch both samples, grind it up, smell it, and then ultimately consume it, and then record your results. We did this back in, was it 2020?
2019, late
Yeah.
2018,
Yeah,
2019.
and we sent over like 3,000 of these out, and we had a 97% kind of return rate on, the cannabis stored with Boveda is better.
nice.
So if you're interested, reach out to us and we can definitely hook you up with that. I don't know if there's a official code or spot, but if you reach out and mention this podcast, we will hook you up.
Absolutely.
There we go.
Yep.
There we go. Yeah, Bob over at Canna Joy was doing the challenge, showing people off in shop, and everyone's like, this is clearly the better product. And
Love to hear that.
I just couldn't see. I mean, I caught some flack last fall online, like, those guys, it doesn't do what they say it does. It's like, I took the position of, well, one, I looked into it, but two, I was like, they've been around since 2012. Like, at some point after a decade, the jig is going to be up, right? Like if it's really not working, how would you still be here, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. No, like anything, there's haters out there, and that's fine. We welcome it. I think it helps us grow, and honestly, some of that feedback has caused us to really research cannabis even more and do more testing, and through that we've just really kind of solidified, like, yeah, this isn't a joke. Like, there is actual science and data that proves that our product works, that, we know it works, but there's data and science that proves that it's actually having a positive impact on the actual cannabis through terpene retention. So that's a big thing is when cannabis dries out, a lot of those terpenes are housed in the trichomes. Those trichomes become brittle. They break off the bud, and it's no longer a part of the cannabis. So you don't actually get to consume it when you go to smoke it. And so maintain that trichome health, maintains terpenes, so you actually have more of that present. So you get more of the entourage effect, the flavors there. All of those things are protected and preserved in the bud. And so, yeah, again, we have a ton of data and science on all this. So if you're interested in learning more and diving deeper into that, it's either available on our website or we can send it over. But
well, we did a whole class with Brian Rice.
Who's the man?
Yeah, I know. So they started the presentation. It's like, all right, well, I know a little bit about this. Yeah, I've heard of a terpene before. And then very quickly it's like, oh, wow, this is a lot of science. And it's really cool seeing the amount of work that's gone into, not just making a product that keeps things at the right humidity, but doing so in a way that's thoughtfully crafted to protect the product that it's doing.
Well, and Brian probably touched on this during that home grow class was, forever everybody has judged good cannabis flower by doing what? They open up the bag and they smell it and they go, okay, that's some fire. But like Scotty just said, what you're smelling is you're smelling the past. You're smelling those terpenes that have left the flower. So you're not going to get that same flavor or that enjoyment when you go to smoke it. So what Boveda does, it sequesters those terpenes, keeps them in the flower. So when you go to grind it up, pack a bowl, roll a joint, whatever it is, that's when you're going to get that full bouquet and you're going to get that taste profile when you're consuming the product.
Yeah, and that was a common, thing we've heard, and we still hear it from time to time today is, oh, Boveda robbed my cannabis of the smell. And it's like, no, it definitely is more muted than what you've probably been used to in whole bud form. But again, the science proves that when you store with Boveda or cannabis is properly humidified, there's more terpenes present in that bud when you go to consume it. And we took it a step further too, just to kind of understand the smell piece of it. And so we had cannabis or ran this test at a St. Croix Sensory Labs out of Wisconsin. I believe they're out of Wisconsin.
Correct.
Yeah. And so essentially they have people that are smell experts, have a heightened level of sensory. And so they took cannabis and they took it in whole bud form, smelled the sample with and without Boveda. And you can do this as part of your Boveda challenge. Recorded the smell. The cannabis in whole bud form without Boveda smelled greater than the cannabis with Boveda. Then after that 14 weeks, they ground it, or 14 days, sorry, they ground it up, and the cannabis that was stored with Boveda had a 5 times greater smell than the cannabis stored without. So again, that just kind of further proved like, okay, these terpenes are actually being, kept in the bud.
Yeah.
And so when you break it all up, you can get that big nose hit that everyone likes, but then you're maintaining more of those terpenes in the bud. So when you consume it, you get that full effect that we all want and love.
No, I think what you were saying was such a great point, where it's like people either consume those terpenes by smelling it, and that's when it's boiled off and it's no longer in that product, or when you actually go to finally consume whatever that cannabis is through vaporization or smoking or whatever method. I think that's such a great point that, yeah, you're smelling less, and that's because you're losing less off your actual product.
Yeah, right, exactly. And it's can be a hard obstacle to overcome because, like Mike mentioned, people have judged the quality of cannabis by opening it and getting that big nose hit, smelling it. And we all love the smell of it. No one's arguing that. But unfortunately, when you have a massive, nose hit, you're smelling terpenes that have evaporated. It's kind of like garlic or an onion. When it's in, whole form before you've chopped it up, there's a little bit of a smell, but Not totally. You chop that up and kind of expose it, and boom, that's when you get that big garlic or onion nose hit.
Yep, or like your coffee grounds that we were talking about earlier.
Absolutely,
Yep.
yeah.
Yeah, just earlier we had minimum wage Tim on. Tim runs a small coffee roastery in Minnesota, and it's interesting to hear the parallels between coffee and cannabis, and I love that smell because that's the first thing that I love when the grinder starts working is the smell of the commodity, the smell of the drug, really, right?
Yeah.
Exactly. And it's actually very similar to tobacco too. There's a lot of parallels between cannabis and tobacco, and just how it's produced and how moisture plays a role on the quality. And with tobacco, as it dries out, you lose a lot of those essential oils and sugars that give it, that real robust flavor. And so again, keeping it properly humidified keeps those flavors in there. And then also just the quality of the construction of the cigar or whatever it is. So,
do you work on both sides, the cigar business and the cannabis business? And are those two different types of customer profiles? Like, what are some of the fun things that you notice? Like, when you have to sometimes wear, I don't know, like wearing two hats, I guess is what I was saying.
Well, both Scotty and I are just on the cannabis side, but
okay,
back when we were a much smaller team, when the phone rang, one of us was going to answer it. So we were talking to multiple industries. I guess how you could sum it up is 7 years ago, roughly, Boveda had one social media account. So both our cigar stuff and our cannabis stuff was on one account. Mm-hmm. And eventually I don't think our premium cigar customer base liked the combination. So we have since split them into separate accounts.
Yeah.
I mean, honestly, I don't know if you guys are the right people to speak on it. Like I know Allison, I know Matt, I know Shannon a little bit. I know a handful of your teammates, but like no one has suffered a worse hit in the Minnesota cannabis industry on a social media perspective than Boveda Fresh. Like you guys have gotten killed on social media before. Like just from your, 7-8 years at the company, can you speak to being like extra cautious on social media when it comes to the cannabis industry? Because I think Boveda has lived that experience.
Yeah, for whatever reason, there's certain accounts that post cannabis consumption and all things cannabis and never deal with it. I don't fully understand why certain people get, maybe singled out. It could be through people complaining and reporting photos and things like that. But we spent a lot of time really bootstrapping when we were a small team, building up that account when we launched it. We had a gentleman, Luke. He's no longer on the team, but he was a young guy out of college and had a marketing background and a passion for kind of building a brand. And so when he got hired, he spent his first month. He'd come in every day for about 2 hours in the morning, and he would just go and like cannabis related content on Instagram, post or comment on certain things. And that's really what kind of built our following up. And then we got to a certain point. I think we were over 30,000 followers and had a ton of engagement too. We didn't have a bunch of bots. We didn't buy followers. These were like really hard earned followers. And, just got shut down, and we tried to work with Instagram. I think we got it back once, and then it was like, you're done. Your account's gone and you're never getting it back. And it's like, what? Why? And you just never really get a good answer of why.
You're not inherently plant touching, yet the product touches the plant. So the photography is plant based, which typically is the issue.
Yeah.
And we're not trapping, selling flower out the back door or any of that.
I've heard some crazy stories though, and maybe we don't have to go into the details, but Boveda really works with legacy growers. Like Boveda has had to do some deals with some people that are working money on the underground, right? And it's just a different perspective than a lot of other businesses have in Minnesota.
Well, I think it's a different perspective than most people in the cannabis industry, because you can also buy Boveda products at like my music store and like all the other different touching points that Boveda has.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, that, again, when I said cannabis found us, it was legit. growers in California that were moving a lot of weight over to the East Coast, and that's how, they discovered our product. I remember way back in the day, I can't remember what year it was, but I had some friends that were like, wait, don't you work for this company? And they sent me a picture, and it was on Cops, the show Cops, and they had busted a guy, and they pull out a big bag of weed, and there's a Boveda pack in the big bag, and they like pull it out, and they're like, what is this thing? And set it on the back of the car. And so, yeah, it's fun. Again, the legacy growers built the industry and the market, and now, we have to respect them, and we work with everyone and want to work with everyone. So yeah. Yep.
So if you want to drive cannabis across the country, Boveda, no, I'm just kidding. No. No, but truly, I think Boveda is one of those products that you can really find so many components of cannabis growing, processing, cultivating, using to use Boveda in, be the home grower side, be just a home consumer side, be it that whole commercial side that is coming to Minnesota. I think Boveda has a pretty big touch point to the cannabis industry.
Absolutely. I don't know if we mentioned it earlier, but some people are finding success using our 69% packs with their gummies, whether that's gummy vitamins or your edibles. Just going to prevent it from drying out, kind of getting a bad texture and all that stuff. Or what we've all seen, I'm sure, is where it gets stuck into like one giant gummy and you're not exactly sure the dose anymore.
Yeah, I've seen that.
Our 69% packs can help with that as well.
Yeah, good call out, Mike.
Yeah. Hey, that's great. I mean, if Boveda can help keep the Minnesota gummy market more fresh.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
You guys are the real champs.
Again, yeah, it's a dry state in the winter. You need that moisture to keep things fresh and consumable. So
sweet. Well, truly, guys, thank you so much for coming in the studio today. Thanks so much for talking a little bit about Boveda, walking us through your products, and just a little bit about your backgrounds.
Yeah, we appreciate it.
yeah, thanks guys, and thanks for what you're doing too. This helps. Again, these are the types of things that I think help the Minnesota market really hit it out of the park. So thank you.
Yeah, and we're here whenever you need us.
So on that point, I think most of the time when we have people on, it's like, hey, give us your handles on Instagram, because they're a little bit of a smaller company trying to help grow. Where can people find Boveda on Instagram?
Is it Boveda Fresh on Instagram?
Yeah, it still should be Boveda Fresh.
Yep.
Some of our employees have Boveda accounts, like mine's Boveda Scott.
Boveda Kate.
Boveda Kate. Yeah, there's a lot. So
Boveda Mike got shut down. So sorry.
I've been looking for Boveda Mike because I used to see it.
You're not alone.
Oh, man. Gosh. Let Boveda live.
right, yeah. And then bovedainc.com. Again, we love chatting with people, so reach out if you have questions. We're here to help, and yeah.
Sweet. Well, thanks for helping us to save the terps, and thanks for coming in today.
Anytime.
No problem. Thank you.